Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Dear friends, good morning and welcome to Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University. I am Dr. Divya Shah, an Assistant Professor of English, and we are dealing with TYBA paper number 9, that is Study of Drama. And in today's session, we are going to discuss Girish Karnad's play, that is Hayavadana. So friends, our today's discussion would begin with an overview of modern Indian theatre, which will be followed by the brief idea about the playwright, that is Girish Karnad. And we will also discuss his works keeping in mind his style of writing. Then we will discuss Hayavadana as a play and its connection to folktale, and then we will discuss about the play in detail. So, let us begin with the term modern Indian theatre. It is a complex term. Many scholars have worked in this area, but for today's lecture, I have taken my ideas mainly from G.P. Deshpande's work on modern Indian theatre. Deshpande begins with pre-modern theatre, which was highly Sanskritized and highly influenced by European Romanticism. We can say that European Romanticism made us believe in pre-modern Indian theatre as the Indian theatre which is timeless or eternal. Colonial time period brought a huge difference in Indian theatre. This new theatre came to be written and staged in the shadow of the British rule. In the encounter with Europeans, Indian playwrights had come into contact with theatre of words, which was not the case with previous time, as our traditional theatre in India was hardly bound by the text. All of you know Bhavai in Gujarati, which was based on oral narratives. Now, coming to post-independent time period, talking about post-independent time period and its theatre, Aparna Dharwadkar argues that the initial period of post-independence was a period of disjunction from the commercialism of Parsi stage, right, which was dominating till 1930s, and the radical popularism of Indian People's Theatre Association, that was IPTA, right, during the 1940s. So, as both of them failed to provide the proper model for the development of urban drama. Talking of this time period, she states, and I quote, "This sense of disconnection from the immediate past led the more ambitious post-independence playwrights to rethink the issue of dramatic form and presentational style, to forge radical connection with an older past as well as the post-colonial present in India, and to put the resources of world theatre, especially modern Euro-American theatre, to novel use." I unquote. This independence period has seen on one hand establishment of National School of Drama, where its goal was to set the middle ground between the pre-colonial revivalism and imitative westernization, and on the other hand, it also witnessed the revival of Sanskrit theatre probably around 1570 to 77, which however, this time period from 60s to 70s is considered as the renaissance of Indian theatre, as Samik Bandyopadhyay in his 1988 essay Renaissance of Indian Theatre claims. Anantapatha, that is multiple text, is the significant aspect of 1960s theatre, which focuses on different productions by different directors of the same play. Talking about this phenomenon, Deshpande states, and I again quote, "Girish Karnad's Tughlaq, a Kannada play, was done by Alkazi in Hindi and by Samdev Dubey in Marathi. These productions were not only in two different languages but also brought us face to face with very different Tughlaqs, one avatar of a play with another avatar of the same play in contention with each other. Such non-antagonistic contradictions add charm to theatre, I unquote. The theatre during the period of 1970s witnessed intense experimentation and the collapse of the well-made play on the one hand and engagement with Brechian theatre form in combination with local forms and conventions. Playwrights who became an active critique of nation through its theatrical form returned to the folk. Now, before we discuss the mythological aspect of our play Hayavadana, let us understand the plot of Hayavadana. So, Hayavadana, meaning horse face, opens with a worship to Lord Ganesha. Bhagavat is the narrator of this play. He appears on the stage and tells the audience about the play that they are going to perform. He says that the play is set in the city of Dharmapura, which is ruled by King Dharmashikha. He also introduces the characters to the audience. He introduces the two protagonists, Devdatta and Kapila. Devdutt is handsome, slight, fair, intelligent, son of a Brahmin, poet and witty. Kapila, on the other hand, is dark, plain, muscular, strong, and physically impressive. The two men are very different from each other, and yet they are the best friends. All of the sudden, a scream from the offstage comes where Nata, right, who screams and he immediately comes. So, a man is there with a head of a horse and a human voice. He saw and heard this talking horse when he was coming along the road and stopped to pee. Bhagavat is amused to hear something of this sort. He cannot believe it. No one can, of course, do you? So, as Bhagavat continues his talk about these two best friends, something really terrified image appear on the stage, and that is of Hayavadana, as you can see on the screen. Bhagavat finds that there is a horse head that is attached to a man's body and realizes that the actor was true. Bhagavat discovers that the horse head is crying. Still, he is not ready to believe and asks Hayavadana to remove his mask since it is frightening people and bothering the audience who have come to enjoy the performance. He orders Hayavadana to take off his masks, but when Hayavadana does not do so, Bhagavat tries to pull it off himself. But soon he realizes that the horse head is actually there, it's real, and that it is not a mask. He realizes that it is the real head of a horse on a man's body. Bhagavata asks Hayavadana several times who is he, but Hayavadana does not answer. Bhagavata is very curious to know why this horseman is like this, whether he is due to some curse or anything else. Hayavadana finally speaks and says that this is his fate and also let Bhagavata pull off his head because he himself cannot get rid of it. All Hayavadana wants is to become a full man, a complete man. Continuing his story to Bhagavata, Hayavadana says that his mother was the princess of Karnataka and that she was able to choose her own husband. It was during the time when the prince of Araby came on his white stallion that she fell in love with that white horse. The princess then decided to marry the horse. The marriage eventually happened because no one could oppose this decision because, of course, it was the princess' decision. One morning after the marriage, when she woke up, the horse was gone. It disappeared. The horse was replaced by a celestial being who had been cursed as a horse for 15 years for his misbehavior. The celestial being was told that the love of a human being would rescue him, and thus he asked the princess to come with him to the heavenly abode. The princess, however, refused, which resulted in the celestial being cursing her. He was very angry and he cursed her. So, because of which, now she converted into a horse. The princess was elated and ran away. And Hayavadana, who was the only offspring of the princess and the celestial being, remained with his human body and horse head. Hayavadana's only desire is to be a complete man. Bhagavata suggests here Hayavadana to go to temple of goddess Kali of Mount Chitakut, right, to fulfill his desire, and Hayavadana starts his journey for Kali temple at Chitrakoot. Here Bhagavata continues his story to the audience. He narrates the story of two friends, Devdutt and Kapil. Now Devdutt, who falls in love with a girl called Padmini, and he expresses his desire for her to Kapil. Devdutt describes the woman and says that her beauty is all the magic lake. Devdutt says she has become my guru in the poetry of love and that he wants her in real life also. Now Kapila finds out the name of the girl and also the house of the girl and asks for her hand for his friend. Now Padmini, who is the daughter of leading merchant in Dharmapura, it is very wealthy and educated house. Kapila somehow manages to persuade Padmini into marrying Devdatta, and Padmini does so. Now Devdatta and Padmini marries each other and she moves into his home. Now Devdatta owes Kapila a debt, right? Because and now their bond of friendship is strengthened more, right, than earlier. But over a period of time, Devdatta finds that Padmini was chattering and drooling over Kapila all day. He also chides her for her propensity to do this. He begins to believe that Padmini is taking interest in Kapila. To this, Padmini thinks that he is jealous of Kapila. But later she confirms Devdatta by saying he is her everything and that Kapila is just an innocent and a baby. Right. Now one day, all three of them are at a trip, and here Padmini realizes that she secretly desires Kapila, specifically her masculine body. Bhagavata says that no woman can resist Kapila and his muscular look, and that Padmini too falls for him. They all went to Kali temple. Devdatta later walks to the temple and finding a sword there and strikes off his own head in anguish. When Kapila and Padmini returns to the cart, they do not find Devdutt there. Kapila seems very worried knowing that Devdutt is not there and he rushed off to find him while Padmini stays there. When Kapila reaches the Kali temple in Chitrakoot, he finds the body which was beheaded of his dear friend, and he moans that he does not know why Devdutt was so angry and how he could forget that Kapila loved him and would do anything for him. Kapila is so much disheartened seeing the body of Devdatta that he picks up the sword and strikes off his own head, claiming they can be brothers in the next world. Padmini, on the other hand, is still waiting for both the men at the cart and got tired waiting. She decides to go and find the two men. She walks to temple in dark and stumbles over the two bodies in front of the Kali temple. She is shocked to see that the two men are dead and does not know what to do. She worries what she will tell people about the death of these two men. She seems totally perplexed and disheartened and decides she must die as well. As she picks up the sword to kill herself, the voice of the goddess Kali comes and tells her to put down the sword. Padmini is scared seeing the goddess in front of her. She falls to the feet of goddess Kali. Kali is pleased with Padmini and asks her what she wants. She tells Padmini to put the heads back on the bodies of two men to bring them back to life once again. Padmini gets very much excited hearing from the goddess Kali that this man can be brought back to life once again. Because of her excitement and this darkness of the night, she puts the heads on the bodies but accidentally mixes them up. She puts the head of Devdatta on Kapila's body and Kapila's on Devdatta's body. The goddess disappears, and two dead bodies begin to sit up and get back to life. They realize that their heads are on wrong bodies, but they do not care and happily decide to return back to home. But it is unclear with whom Padmini should go to home, because Devdatta's head on Kapila's body says that the head is the sign of the man, but Kapila, that means Kapila's head on Devdatta's body, says that this hand or body marries her and this body lived with her. So Devdatta says a person marries a person, not a body, and that of all the human limbs, the topmost in position as well as importance is the head. Now Padmini is convinced by Devdatta's argument and she decides to go with him. Kapila angrily tells Padmini that he knows she wants Devdatta's head and Kapila's body because she married Devdatta and was attracted toward Kapila because of his muscular looks. Now Devdatta himself agrees to what Kapila has to say. Kapila tells Devdatta that they must get rid of Kapila, but Kapila says that they will have to kill him to get rid of him. The three are still in a confusion what they should do to get rid of this situation. Now Bhagavata interrupts the three people on the stage and says that this is indeed a dilemma and a deep and perplexing problem whose answer must be sought with the greatest caution. He tells the audience here to take the 10-minute break and ponder this and then come back with the solution. So here the first act comes to the end with a real confusion of with whom the Padmini should go with, right? Now in the very second lecture we are going to deal with the act 2, and after that we will also talk about how the story of Hayavadana, the folktale that Hayavadana uses, is actually taken from originally Katha Sarit Sagar and how it was taken by Thomas Mann in his famous novella called Transposed Head, right? So, till now, whatever we have seen is mainly the idea of modern Indian theatre, right? Then in modern Indian theatre, we discuss the pre-modern time period. We also discuss colonial time period, which was influenced by Shakespeare and his works, and the post-colonial theatre, that was a period of disjunction. After that, we also looked at the argument of Samik Bandyopadhyay in terms of modern Indian theatre and how the period of 60s and 70s was divided into Anand Path and engagement with Brechtian theatre. Now, and then we discuss in brief about the play Hayavadana and the Act 1 of Hayavadana. So friends, the second act of the play begins with Bhagavat asking the audience about the solution to this problem. The problem of whose wife is Padmini is still persists. Devdutt, Kapil and Padmini go to the great Rishi in anticipation of a valid solution to the problem. The Rishi suggests that the head is supreme among the human limbs, and thus Devdutt's head on the Kapil's body gets to be with Padmini. Now Devdutt and Padmini jumps with joy hearing this from the Rishi, but Kapila is of course mournful. As Devdutt and Padmini prepare to leave, Padmini tells Kapila not to despair and whispers that she is going to be with his body after all. Now Bhagavata also tells Kapila not to be grieved since this is fate. Kapila goes to live in the woods after this, and Devdutt and Padmini goes to Dharmapura to enjoy their married life. Padmini is expecting a child as she is pregnant with Devdatta. Devdatta brings two dolls for their child. She sees that Devdatta's new body has acquired a new characteristic in the sense that the new body simply acts and does not wait for thoughts. The child is born and the two dolls which Devdatta brought starts to talk to each other. The dolls also begins to address the audience and tell them what happens next. Devdutt and Padmini fights over the best ways to raise their son. But Padmini does not forget to think about Kapila. She constantly thinks of Kapila and wonders where he is and what he is doing. The two dolls also sense this inclination of Padmini toward another man, that is Kapila. Padmini also secretly wants to go and meet Kapila. She expressed her desire to her son that she would take him to the forest which he has never seen before. Kapila appears on the stage again after he left for the forest. He tells Bhagavata that he will never return to the city again since he wants to spend the rest of his life in the forest owing to the fact that Padmini now belongs to Devdatta. Bhagavata also tells Kapila that his mother has died and that Padmini has given birth to a son. Kapila is expressionless to this and simply walks away and starts to cut a tree. It was after this Padmini appears in the forest with her son, since she has promised her son that she would take him to the forest. Padmini sees Kapila there and both of them are transfixed, seeing each other. Padmini tells Kapila that she has brought her son to the forest because he has never seen it before, that he had never felt the winds on his cheeks or a thorn in his foot or seen the river. Kapila looks at the son and asks if it is her son, to which Padmini says it is his too, as it is his body, right? We know that it is Kapila's head on the Devdatt's body that is created. Padmini also tells him that her son has the same mole in the shoulder that Kapila has. She also tells Kapila that it was her fault that she mixed the heads up and she has suffered for it. She wishes she could stay and look at him and fill up for the rest of her life. Kapila tells her that he has buried all the memories of the past and that Padmini is unearthing them now. She is so sorry, but she does not want her pity. Finally, she goes and both of them embrace and go inside their house. When Devdutt returned from the fair, he had gone there to bring the new dolls, of course. So he asked Bhagavata if Kapila lives here. The scene is still in the forest. Devdutt comes to forest and asks Bhagavata if Kapila is here. But Bhagavata is reluctant to answer his question since he knows that he lives here and that Padmini is also with Kapila. Devdutt is very angry and has come here with a sword and two new dolls in his hands. He also asked Bhagavata for how long she has been here in the forest, to which Bhagavata confesses that 4 to 5 days. Kapila comes out with his hut and says that he was eagerly waiting for Devdutt. Both of them have a conversation and Devdutt asks if he loves Padmini, to which Kapila says yes, he does. To this, Devdutt tells him that he also loves Padmini. Seeing the sword of Devdatta, Kapila also goes in to fetch this sword. The two men confront each other and start fighting with their swords. Padmini also comes out to watch this fight. Bhagavata sings as the two men fight. Both the men finally die in this battle. Padmini leans down to them and says they have burned, lived, fought, embraced and died. She wishes if there was any other solution to this or they could have lived together. But this was the only ending that was possible, that is, killing of each other and dying. Padmini finally tells Bhagavata about her last desire. She wants to give away her son to the hunters of the forest to raise him as Kapila's son, and after he is 5 years old, he has to be sent to Dharmapura to be raised as the son of Devdat. She asks Bhagavata to help her in doing so. She announces to Bhagavata that she would commit sati and die. Padmini finally commits sati and she is consumed by the flames. Bhagavata tells the audience that they are totally unaware of where did she carry out this act of committing a sati. After the death of Devdat, Kapila and Padmini, the scene shifts to the subplot of Hayavadana, a man with the head of a horse. Bhagavata is addressing the audience that the the Nata who sees Hayavadana is rushing towards him. He is sick. Bhagavata he tells Bhagavata that he heard someone singing the national anthem. When he went to see who is he was shocked to see that it was a horse that was singing the national anthem here. Now, actor 1 also here appears on the stage with serious, sulky little boy of about 5 years old. Bhagavata asks who the boy is, but the boy does not reply. Actor replies that he was passing through a hunter's village when the hunters gave him this boy, saying he no longer belonging to this place. Bhagavata gets a little idea as to who this child is, as he was told by Padmini about her desire to give away her son to the hunters first and later to the city of Dharmapura. He asks the child to show his shoulder, and seeing the mole on his shoulder, Bhagavata realizes that he is none but the son of Padmini. It was after this that the second actor says that he saw a full horse and not the one Bhagavata thought of, that is, the horse-headed man. It was after this that Hayavadana appears on the stage. He is now converted into a full horse and he thanks Bhagavata and he says his story, that is when he went to the temple of Kali. But Bhagavata is very much astonished to see the transformation of Hayavadana. So Hayavadana explained that when he went to the goddess Kali and proclaimed that he would chop off his head, that Kali stopped him and asked what he wanted, and to which he said that he wanted to become complete, but he had not even finished speaking to the goddess when Kali granted him his wish. She made him a complete horse and not a complete man. So Hayavadana here says that he wished he could get rid of his human voice and says that he was singing because it is believed that people who sing ruin their voice. So he was trying to get rid of his human voice by ruining it through singing. Hayavadana also begins to cry, narrating his story because his fate is still following him and he is still not complete, as he is having the body of a horse and the voice of a human, which is very strange combination. The little boy, that is Padmini's son, asks Hayavadana not to cry. The boy sits on the back of Hayavadana, the horse, and asks Hayavadana to laugh. And very surprisingly, as the horse does so, he begins to lose his human voice and he can only neigh. Realizing that he has gotten rid of his human voice, Hayavadana leaps with joy and the boy enjoys bouncing up and down on his back. The play here ends with Bhagavata being happy that Hayavadana has become complete. He tells the actors to tell the Brahmin his grandson is coming on a large white horse. The boy is being taken to Dharmapura on the back of the horse. Bhagavata thanks Lord Ganesha for the smooth completion of the performance of their play. So friends, here our plot of the Hayavadana comes to the end. What we have seen here is a Hayavadana in two acts, and how both the acts talk about a story of Hayavadana, that is the transposed head, how the heads goes to the another body and what kind of riddle it creates and what is the solution to this riddle. At the one place, the main story is this, the subplot is also taking place, and that is of Hayavadana, how a human body with a horse head is there, and how ultimately both the plots they are merged with each other, and how there is a final happy ending to this play. Now this was all about the story of Hayavadana. In the very next lecture, what we are going to discuss is Karnad as a playwright in terms of the modern Indian theatre, that is the post-colonial aspect, post-colonial theatre, how his write-up fits him into this modern Indian theatre. And we will also discuss a brief biography of Karnad along with his writing skill, and we will also discuss, friends, in the very next lecture about how these folklore, which is very important part of Hayavadana as a stage play as well as the theme. So how this idea of this folklore is, we will discuss how it is part of the other Indian narratives as well, and how it is reused by Karnad in the modern contemporary context. So till then, I hope you guys have enjoyed the lecture. Thank you so much.